Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be doing something a little differently than I normally do. Instead of doing Chibi Kids, we're going to be coloring one of the images from our Annie's Garden line. As many of you know, I do all the artwork for Stamp Anything for the Chibi Kids, but I do not know how to draw flowers. So we got the very talented Ron Kropp to do the artwork for our Annie's Garden line. And we have 4 stamps currently, and our second run of phase 2 of Annie's Garden is in production, and that should be ready with another 4 stamps for the second quarter of the year. So one of the stamps that we have is this beautiful hummingbird with the morning glories. It says, "Hello, friend, thinking of you just because, and I'm sorry." Then we have the adorable ladybugs on the clovers with to a lovely friend, comfort, love, prayers, and sending to brighten your day. So they got some really nice variety of sentiments that you can do. The next one of my favorites, is the monarch with the daisies. And this one has to a wonderful aunt, friend, sister, mom, daughter, mother, and miss you. So these would be great for a Mother's Day type card. And then we also have our bees on the roses that say get well soon, birthday wishes, and deepest sympathies. So these are the 4 stamps we currently have in the Annie's Garden line, with 4 more coming soon. Now here's a little bit. I am not a flower colorer. So I am going out of my comfort zone today with you guys. And I'm also going to be doing them with watercolor markers. Just like you, I'm a crafter as well. And sometimes I watch videos and the presentation that others make, and I'm like, wow, they make it look so easy. And then I go run out and I buy things too. I used to do the watercoloring markers long ago, but very, very rarely. I couldn't find my watercolor markers, so I had to run out and buy a new kit, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So I found this brand on Amazon called 𝐒𝐒𝐁𝐄. They were cheap. They were like $29, I think, for a set of 30. I figured, I'm just going to do a quick watercoloring demo, so let's give it a go. So I've only used them 3 times, so I'm going to show you how easy it is to do watering colors with watercolor markers. So we're going to do the hummingbird with the morning glories. And let me just zoom in a little bit here. And again, I am not a floral person or a watercolor person. So this is going to be fun and interesting, and you guys all get a front row seat with me doing it. So you get the water pens also in the kit. There's 3 of them with different tips. The shorter one, then they have a longer brush nib, and then they have the squared off nib as well. But basically there's different ways you can watercolor. Again, because I'm not a watercolorist, I'll probably say the wrong terminology on watercoloring. But I'm just going to show you really quick how these markers can be used. So I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of watercolor paper. This is my Canson watercolor paper. And basically, these paint type markers, they're going to feel like they're dry when you're using them because they're not a marker. But what you can do is when you're using them, there's different ways you can activate it. The first way would be to be laying down your water next to it, and then taking your pen and activating it into the water, like so. That's one way you can do it. Another one is you literally just put down the color and then paint over it and then bring the water out. So that's another way you can do it. And then the last way is you kind of dry your brush over it, so it's not as wet. And other ways that you can do them as well is if you have a glass type surface, you can write on your, can you see here, on your glass, and then add water to it, and then you can make a wash with the markers as well. So those are the different ways that you can go ahead and use these marker type things. The way that I prefer is the second way. I like to lay down where I want the colors to be and then paint over it and pull the color out to get my different blending. So that's the technique I'm going to be using. I don't know what that technique is called. I don't know if it's wet on wet, dry on wet. I don't know. They have different names for all of these things. But basically that is the technique that I'll be going for today. So we are going to start, and I try to go left to right because if I did the hummingbird first and then went back over to the flowers, unless you put your heat gun or a hair dryer on it to dry it out, your wrist is going to be getting onto your wet colored area, and then you're going to smudge it all over. So I'm going to go pretty much kind of go left to right, and I'm going to start with some of the leaves that are in here because these little viney type leaves are not going to have a ton of watercoloring blending out for them. So I'm just taking one of my markers here, my darkest green, and I'm just going to lay in some of the green color where I want it to be on my vines. And I'm not going to go and do all of them. I'm just going to be doing like this first quarter of a section here. And then I'll go back and do my leaves. That way my hand is not going to be coming over onto them. And then I'm going to wet my brush. I'm just going to dab it off a little bit. And now I'm just going to start literally activating that color and pulling it down and into the areas of what I want. It's very easy. You get this really nice light effect from it. You can go back and add more color if you wanted to, but I like when watercolor kind of has like the white parts of it showing through. I don't like it all completely solid. And that's just a personal preference. So there I just did some of the viney areas of my leaves. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the parts of the leaf here, and I'm going to color a bigger area because it is a bigger area that needs to have the paint, like so. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take a secondary green color, a lighter green color, and lay it next to it so I can get a variation in the green. And now I'm going to activate the lighter green and start pulling it out, going over it, and then I'm going to blend it into my darker green. Like so. I'm going to wipe off my brush, and then I'm just going to start bringing it out together. Like so. And you'll see there's a little bit of the undertone of that lighter green underneath. And you can always go back in and fix little areas where you need to. And now this time I'll start with the darker green to show you if you go the opposite way. Starting with the darker green and then going into my lighter green. You get a slightly different tone because your darker color was pulled on top, like so. But you still have that nice green undertow underneath it. I said undertow, I meant undertone. And when your paper, if it's still wet, it hasn't dried yet, you can always go back in and quickly adjust if something is too dark or too blotchy to transition it and smooth it out just a little bit. Now when I'm going to be coloring this blue flower, I'm not going to be hitting this leaf, so I can go ahead and get this leaf done at this time as well. So again, I'm going to add in my darker green and then my lighter green, like so. And that's the thing with watercolors, you go back and forth between your colors because you can't lay everything, again, all the greens down unless you're going to take a heat gun or a hair dryer and dry the one section to move on to your next area. Otherwise, you got to do it in sections. And since I am not near anything with a power cord, I was unable to hook up my heat gun where I'm at. Okay, and I'm just gonna lighten that up a little bit. And again, you can always take your markers, because it's still wet, if you wanted to, and add in more color, like so. Okay, so now we're going to start on this Morning Glory, and I'm going to do it in a purple and blue coloring. So I'm going to take my purple, and I am going to do it where I think the purple is going to be the darkest, which is coming out the center. And then I'm going to just add a thinner line of blue. And now I'm going to blend these two colors out. So I'm going to activate all my purple. And I'm just activating the purple. And then I'm going to go back. I'm going to start activating the blue. And I'm going to have them mixed together to get a variation, because Morning Glories have this really pretty difference of color coming out from their centers. And then I'm gonna take this blue and have it come out towards the edges. And you can see you get this really beautiful transition of color by laying down two different color markers to work together, instead of just having a solid purple or a solid blue flower. And I'm just going over this area a bit more because it did start. It was a thin water that I had here, so it started to dry quicker than I would have liked. But you just keep going over it and it'll activate it more and more. I want it to have a little bit more blue, so I'm going to go and I'm going to add some more blue on top. Just to get that variation of color in there. Like so. You get this really pretty transition, as you can see, from that purple into the blue. So, and then I'm going to take like this magenta-y color, I guess you want to call it. It's called Rose Carmine, But I'm going to make that my center of my flower. Again, just blend that out. And you get this really nice effect with it being darker in some areas and lighter in the others. And there is our one flower. Okay. So now I'm going to do some more of these little vines down here, since I'm working downwards. So I can go here, just work it a little bit. And now I'm just gonna blend some of it out. I don't want the green to be overly green on these little stems. Like I said, I like that it has a little bit of the white showing for the watercoloring. Again, that's just my personal preference of how I like it. Like so. Okay. And now we can also do this big green one. Add a little bit of the lighter yellow green. And now we can go ahead and activate this as well. If you go out of the lines with watercoloring, it's a little bit harder to clean up than it is with Copic markers. You have to get it wet and then take cloth to blotch it out. But you have to do it pretty quickly. You can't do it if it dried and then you add water back to it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and make a little blue one over here with the little bud. We'll make another blue one on this one. I'm going to color it in a little bit darker so it's a different shading of such, like that. That one's tighter rolled, so it would be a little bit darker. And then where did I put the purple? We'll make this one a purple, but on the bottom with our blue on the top. Just gonna blend that out to there, and then blend this into that, like so. And now we can go and do our other morning glory down at the bottom here. So again, I'm gonna take my purple and go around the center of my flower. And then I'm going to take my blue and go around more towards the edge of my flower. And now we're going to blend out our purple. Like so. Wipe it off. Come back in, and now we're going to blend our blues. I first like to go around the edges and then blend it in. No two flowers are alike, so you don't have to try to make them matchy-matchy, because there's always going to be those color variations in every flower. And then you know how the pigments of your colors and your flowers, of how they grow, that's always going to also change how much purple or how much blue is on certain ones. Go look in your garden and you'll know what I'm talking about. But you get this really pretty blend out color of a purple into the blue. Again, like so. And if you are a watercolor person and you're cringing at what I'm doing because you're like, that's not how you do it, sorry. Like I said, I am new to it. I thought it was fun. I like how the colors came together. So yeah. All right, and then this one I'm going to do opposite. I'm going to make it blue on the bottom and go into purple on the top. Because like I said, no two flowers are going to be alike. And it's fun to mix things up. I have too much water on there. But there we go. It's a nice, pretty flower as well. And then we can do the center again on our flower. Just going to add this pretty fuchsia color. Maybe even add a little bit of yellow on that one. And very lightly blend those two together, like so. It's just like you add a little bit of a hint of color here and there. You can even go back. We can add some yellow into that one. Blend that out just to give it a little more characteristic. And now let's go back and finish some of these leaves here. I'm just coloring up to the edge this time here. And then adding my lighter color. And I'm just activating the color once again. The less color you add, the more transition of the watercolor look you'll get. The more color, the more vibrant, and the more color is going to be added to your project. And that's something I still need to learn, you know, to not add so much color so it's more watercolory. I'm going to come over here and do this one. Here, and I'll even add just that little bit, like I said. See if this one we can get to be more of a, oh, didn't blend that out too well there. Okay, so let's see if we do it on this one when we transfer into that lighter green. It's just more watered down. Like so. And you can stamp these in a light gray or a soft brown, and then that way your watercoloring is you won't see all the black lines. And that always looks really, really pretty as well when people do it that way. So this one I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to make this one the blue going into the purple, just to make a different opposite colored flower. And I'm just going to get this blue started here. Have it go up. And now I'm going to get the purple started. Have that. So if you liked blending colors, or if you're learning about blending colors, this is a really easy way to learn how to do it, opposed than with Copic markers. It's a little bit more forgiving, I think. Okay, and then we'll do this one, purple. Maybe we'll do this one purple into that magenta-y color, just because morning glories do come in varieties of color. So let's make this one with that softery type magenta color on the ends. Like so. There we go. All right, and now let's just finish these clovers here. I'm just gonna blend that one out. Like so. And then just a little bit of color on these little curly Q tendrils going around. And I love those little details that Ron put into his drawing with the little viney going off. Oop, I just went out of line there. And there too. Oops. I'll have to hurry up to clean that. So again, when you mess up, you have to wet it as fast as you can and dab it away. The Copic marker, you'd be using your colorless blender to push the color back. Here we're just trying to get the color to completely go away. All right, so those are our flowers. And now we're gonna start in on our beautiful little hummingbird. And I think we should do him in a series of some teals and maybe some green and some blues, and we'll see how this comes into play. So I want him to have a pretty teal head, like so. Okay. And this time I'm going to lay my water down and then activate it inside, kind of let it do its magic. Then I'm gonna take, let's see, do I have, I don't know what color that is. That's a dark green. I want him to keep him pretty light and airy. So let's add some, maybe some yellow to his body, his underbody, and then maybe even a little bit of green. And then we'll go back with that teal underneath to the back part of his body here. And I'm gonna activate the yellow to be able to get it up against my lines here. And then the same thing with my green. And I'm gonna blend those two together, like so. And then again, I'm gonna do the water down here, and then I'm going to go ahead and then activate the watercolor into that open space, like so. Kind of just dab it in. And then blend it where they meet. Okay. Just like that. And then we'll have this cute little golden yellow for his beak area. I'm going to turn my paper this way real quick, just so, again, my hand isn't in anything wet while I bring that down. There's his little beak. And now for his wings, I'm going to do that same turquoisey color. It's called Persian green. And I'm gonna just pull that down. Nothing fancy there. Pulling it into his body area. And then I'm gonna use a powder blue, lightest blue I have, and go on the edge of his wings. And then I'm going to blend that downward. So it's a really, really pale blue meeting into that teal area. And then I'll do his other wing over here on these little areas. And again, just bringing it down. So it's really nice, a really nice and soft look. Sorry about that. Okay. And now for his under, I think we'll do that in the teal as well. And just bring those down. Oop, out of the line again. And we'll just fix that real quick.
Yes. Is it here?
Yes, go get the door. Thank you. I'm sorry, you guys. Life happens when you're doing lives sometimes. All right, so there's that. And now let's just give him a nice eye color. So I'm just gonna do this yellow around his eye, like so. And there is our cute little hummingbird. And then I just want to soften it up even a little bit more so you really, really get the idea that it is watercoloring. So I'm going to do a little on the background. And since it's spring, I think I'll do it in a pale pink color. And I'm just going to practice really quick to see how this pink is actually going to, where did I just put my water brush? Oh, over here. And I just want to see how pale of a pink it's going to be if yeah, I don't like that. So we're not going to do it pink. Let's see what other color choices we have here. Maybe we can do it this orangey color. You might do it as a wash. Yeah, I think that will do a lot better. Okay, so we're gonna do this marigold. And basically I'm just going to add a little thin line going around the area of my project. And I'm just scrubbing the color basically and pulling it out just so I'm getting a nice little colored background around my image. Is it showing up on camera? I don't even know if it's really showing up well, but you're just gonna go around these points. I've done this before with Copics as well. If you watched when we did our Girls Just Want to Have Funs card, I did it with Copic markers. I just added a U of color around the images. It just gives it a little bit grounding it more, so it's just not on the stark white looking paper. And that's all I'm doing. And it helps to fill in some areas. It helps to draw the eye to different areas as well. So if you had like a little bit of an error like I do on some parts, it just helps camouflage things as well. And we all know when we craft that sometimes stuff happens and you end up having to fix and camouflage things that happen. And even though you can point them out and see them a mile away because you did it, so you know where the mistake is, other people don't necessarily see it at all. But I guess it just is what we do to perfect what we're trying to accomplish. And so I'm just scrubbing away and making like a washed background on my project. And when it dries, it looks really nice with that watercolor line. That's the part of watercolor that like I love the most, is the line you get around the edges when you color, and you can't see that with a stamped image. That's why if I did it again, I'd probably stamp it in a light gray or a beige type color. That way it's really the watercolor speaking as opposed to the stamped image. Again, that's just my personal preference. You do want to be careful when you're doing this technique right here that you don't go into a previously part that you colored, especially if it's still a little bit wet, because you will pull those colors out and it'll get mucky and the colors will muddle together. So you just want to be careful. That's why a lot of people that do watercolors, they'll have, like I said, a hair dryer or a heat gun near them so that they can dry their work as they go. It's actually very, very smart to do, but like I said, I didn't really have a power outlet nearby where I'm working today to do that. So again, I'm just going around my image. We will go in the inside as well to fill in that area so it matches too. But I just love that final look on the edge of watercolors. And that's all there is to it. And these brushes, these ones came with the kit that I bought of markers, but you can buy these at any craft store, and they come in different brush nibs and different tips, so you can get I like them better. I mean, I know people that really are watercolors or artists and painting, all you have your really nice brushes. I'm one of those people though, when I buy a brush, because I don't paint often like I used to years and years and years ago. So now if I have a paintbrush or something, I forget where I put them. And that's why I like these new brushes that came out, because these can just go right in with my markers. Whereas my paintbrushes, like I try to keep them separate. But since it came with the set, it just made it a lot easier. And they are inexpensive. You just fill them with water, which you're probably saying, then why do you keep dipping it in the water? That's because these you squeeze for the water to come out of the brush. And I just feel like the control on it is not as I would like, so I still like to just dip in the water. And this outer area that I'm doing is more of the watercoloring that I like, where, like I said, it's blended more. It's more with the white, the transition of it. But if you're new to watercoloring, what we did today with these markers is a really great start of an introduction to watercoloring. And again, like I said, look at the very nice blends that you can get. So if you're trying to learn blending techniques with different colors, you can't go wrong getting these type of marker pens. They're just really great. And there are many brands out there, and just like markers and colored pencils, you have your cheap brands and you have your expensive brands. This was a very inexpensive set. I have another set, a Japanese set, that put me back a couple $100. This one only put me back $29.99 right off of Amazon. And I think that they have really good vibrancy. So, I mean, I personally think that they're doing just as good of a job as my expensive set that I have. I'm actually surprised. So I would actually even recommend this brand because it's pretty darn good. With as much as, you know, we're accomplishing here. So we're almost done. Oop, I got some green coming out of that one. Another thing that you want to also be very, very aware of if you're watercoloring is the paper. The paper is very important when you're watercoloring, and you want to make sure you get a good, it's probably more important to have the better quality paper than it is to have an expensive paint set. This, like I said, is Canson. It's cold pressed paper, so you want to look for that as well. You can get this off of Amazon as well. This pen set that I bought came with some paper, and it also came with video tutorials, which was pretty cool. I think it had 8 tutorials showing you all the different ways you can use these markers. And that's what I was saying. I was watching it. It's like, oh, they make it look so easy. And as you can see from this demo that I'm doing with you guys today, just how easy it really is. Again, this is only my 4th time, I believe I said, my 4th time that I've used these markers since I've gotten them. I've only had them for about a week. And again, I'm not a watercolor paper person. I'm not a watercolorist, and I am definitely not a flower person either. That's why I didn't want to do them in my Copics. I think just needs to come out just a little bit more on this side. Just getting it done. There we go. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Your watercoloring hummingbird with morning glories. Again, then I would just cut it down and mat it onto my card. Watercolor paper, because you know you are putting a lot of water, it will tend to curve your paper. So a lot of times what watercolorist people do is they tape it on a flat, hard surface. I did not do that. I'll just wait till I'm going to hit it with my heat gun, and then I'll just press it in a book before I go ahead and put it to my card mat. So I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's really that easy working with these kind of markers. Again, this brand was called 𝐒𝐿𝐲, but I also, my more expensive brand is there's 𝐼𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐷𝐷 is a brand that's out there. I have the 𝐒𝐿𝐲𝐻𝐿, the Japan ones. Again, this is Annie's Garden. We have the hummingbird with our morning glories, the ladybugs with the clovers, the monarch with the daisies, and then our bee with our roses. And there's lots of layers on here, so you can do a lot of great shading, and then having your flowers like curl with the lighter colors coming out. Again, you don't have to just watercolor these. You can do these with your colored pencils, of course, and your markers or whatever you want. Just have fun with it. But I hope you enjoyed my little demo here today, and have a great day. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Bye.